Hey everyone, Josh from Invicta here. So coming up after this is a little interview I just done with Ash Currie of the band VantaBlack. So, well, it was actually the other week I did it, but afterwards we realised there was a problem with the video for about the first minute or so. So yeah, tech, what are you going to do with it? Anyway, this little intro is just to say, don't worry about it. The interview video does kick in after a little bit, but we've just put the actual band's single video in the background just while we do the introductions, so it's not too jarring. Either way, hope you enjoy. All the best. Hello all. I'm Josh, working for Invicta Media here. You can check us out everywhere you need to, all on the internet. And today we have quite a special one. We're speaking to Ashley of VantaBlack, who are releasing their new single. How are you doing, Ashley?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, man. How are you?
Surviving in this mad world, to be honest. But yeah.
So all we can really do, to be honest.
Yeah. Been busy?
As busy as one can be, given the circumstances. I've tried to, really. I think busy is a very loose term. I think surviving is probably the best route to go down.
So firstly, I'll get you to introduce the new single. Give us the title, give it a little bit of what's about.
Yes. So this new single is called Lost in Hysteria. Basically, the single itself is quite dark in terms of meaning. Basically, I've got a heart condition. And I've been through heart surgery quite a few times. My most recent one being in 2017. And because I was quite a lot older, and there was a few reasons surrounding it why I kind of went through, so I was a bit more aware of the situation. And because of a few, I'm going to say a few sort of like bad times that were happening around it, I went ever so slightly insane with the amount of things that were kind of going off. And this song basically just describes that entire process of what happens. And kind of like how my mindset was and how I dealt with it, how I was able to kind of turn it into more productivity rather than anger. But, it's metal, so it's got to be quite angry at some point. So it's a mixture of both.
Get it out in the music, that's better than any other way, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. And this is kind of like what I tried to do for so long. Music's since being a kid, music's always been my release. So quite naturally, I'm able to write lyrics that mean something, but also release any kind of stress and tension.
In some ways, it's easier than talking about it in conversation as well, because you can write it down, think about what you've written, chop and change it if you have to, and then you've got a medium to drive it forward, so that you can get the understanding across to other people, but you don't have to say it all in full at the same time.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I think, I think I speak for a lot of musicians when we say that, once you enter that kind of realm of being in that headspace, nothing really else matters around you. You kind of just go into this zone where the outside world doesn't matter anymore. Your 9 to 5 doesn't matter anymore. Nothing really matters anymore. All that's in that vision is just you, and you're so focused on what you're doing at the time. So it is quite easy to vent because nothing else matters at that point.
Definitely, I agree with that. Comes across in performances live more than anything as well. But before we get into that,
100%.
In terms of sort of genre thing, reading on your sort of Facebooks and everything, you're in the new metal, new wave of new metal kind of thing. Was that a conscious choice, really, or was it something that just happened when you all came together, the 4 members?
It's a weird one, really, because when we actually came together, VantaBlack wasn't actually meant to be anything other than just like an internet project between myself and Roy, the guitarist. And it was because aside from like doing metal and rock and stuff like that, I've always been into rap. Like rap was the first kind of genre that got me into music in the first place, and it's always been quite a personal thing to me. And because I started posting a load of rap videos on Facebook, mainly, and they started it was kind of like at the point where I was kind of gaining a bit more traction online, and I was sort of like, getting my name out there a bit more. And once I'd been posting more of these rap videos, it got out, and Roy kind of like messaged me out of nowhere, and he was He's like, dude, you know, I've got this this new metal album that just needs some vocals, or like, would you want to put some vocals on top of it? And I said, yeah, and like it kind of like worked out really well, because the only reason that Vanta became a thing really was because of the pandemic. It started out probably like the back end of 2019, us just talking, and you know, we got into a practice room just to jam, because I knew Cal, who's the drummer, and Roy knew our old bassist, and we just kind of got together to jam for a bit. And then literally right in the middle of lockdown, we was like, should we do a music video? And I was like, yeah, why not? And because of that one music video, and because it did really well for what it was. It had like hardly any promotion on it whatsoever, and we got like 10,000 views overnight. It went quite nuclear. It was pretty cool. But because of that, we was like, yeah, let's carry it on. Let's see where it goes. So it kind of genre wise, it all just kind of fell within itself, to be honest.
I'm guessing that's coming from not just your influence but theirs as well. And with it being a bit of a resurgence of new metal right now, I guess peers around you, other influences in the current climate. So that's another one we can ask: who's influencing you at the moment? What have you been listening to?
Do you know what? My music fluctuates quite a lot. We're all sort of like, you know, I say like myself and the drummer Cal, we've been friends since we was about 5 years old. So we've grown up through the same kind of music phases. And it was that kind of early 2000s new metal wave that really kind of brought us into music. So I think like my biggest influence, one of my all-time favorite bands is Slipknot, and I still listen to Slipknot religiously all the time anyway. And I think at the moment I'm trying to like sort of listen to a lot of new music at the moment. So like currently I'm listening to a band who's, you know, really good friends of mine, a band called The City Is Ours. They've recently just released a new single called The Violent. Go check it out.
Shout out.
And it's a wicked song. Shout out. I'm listening to them at the moment, and the guys in Lotus Eater, they've just dropped a new single, and like I'm just trying to listen to as many new bands, because I feel like you can only gain as much inspiration from kind of like older music until it's all kind of like drawn out and it starts to sound aged. So I've been sort of like trying to listen to a lot of new bands recently, and it just like sort of comes out that a lot of like people who I've had the pleasure of working with has now started releasing music again, now the world's opening back up, and it's pretty sick, man. It's kind of like that's kind of coincided with my inspiration being fluctuated a bit more. So yeah, definitely a lot of new music at the moment I'm trying to listen to.
That's definitely good to hear. Yeah, it's the same with me on the Invicta side of things. We get to listen to a lot of new stuff, which is always good, especially supporting the small time artists, which will hopefully be coming back as a gig front in the next 6 months ish.
We have got a lot of stuff planned. It's been quite nice, to be honest, because I originally I was in a band called Sworn Amongst, and that was kind of like my touring band, where you know we was at that level where we was able to do that kind of stuff and kind of live that dream a little bit. And then once, you know, the pandemic hit, there was like for a few reasons we decided to kind of like separate that for a bit, and almost like put it on a bit of a hiatus. So that's kind of like I don't know what's happening with that, but you know, never know. Hint hint. But you know, Vanta's just kind of like, because Vanta was so new and it was quite fresh. It was really nice to start again and do something different and kind of like get back into the scene and get back into the old ways of doing things. And so yeah, it's been really fun, man. But yeah, we've got a lot of plans, a lot of stuff I'm really excited about.
Glad to hear it, definitely. And in terms of the band name, I mean, I know the story about VantaBlack. I'm guessing that's why you chose the name, really.
To be honest, like Roy picked the name, and I personally never really say there's any major meaning behind it. There is a meaning behind it. I feel like there's always meaning to something from like different perspectives. But for me, Roy honestly just came to me one day and he was like, "Why don't we call it VantaBlack?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's a pretty sick name." And that was pretty it. But then like over the time, it's just stuck. There's never really any kind of meaning behind it. It just sounded like a really cool name, and it sounds new metal when you sort of think about it in terms of it sounds very new metal. So I think that's just why it stuck.
It fits very nicely. I mean, its actual meaning is it's the blackest black that's been produced as a color. So
yeah, but I think we definitely, like, when that came about, we started researching into it and we looked at exactly what it was. And when we found out about the color scheme of it, we thought that'd be really cool as like a play on words. But then was kind of like trying to not go, oh yeah, well, we called this name because it's the blackest of black colors in the world, and like trying to steer away from that black metal vibe. But it also, at the same time, it's a pretty sick concept. So it's a wicked color.
Yeah, no, I definitely like it, and it's quite a fun little story. If anyone looks into the back of that, it was basically some company produced the blackest of black. They could only share it with one artist, and then he ended up copyrighting using it in art, in like artistic pieces, which is quite funny. And then the art community hated it, so another guy created the pinkest pink and said everyone except the guy who copyrighted it can use it. It's a fun little story.
That's cool. I'll probably use that one.
Yeah, see if you can come up with, like, I don't know, some sort of slam song of it almost, or little metaphor in somewhere. I mean, I was going to ask about how you write as a band too, but you've kind of covered parts of that with the COVID thing. But
I mean, to be really honest, it's like I say, this first time round. So Roy, who's the guitarist, he has a friend called Chris Imber, who is also a fantastic musician. But he basically, a couple of years ago, he basically came to Roy one day and he had like a shed load of riffs. And because Roy's quite a musical genius in terms of turning like riffs into songs. And basically he came to Roy and he was just like, dude, I've got a load of these riffs, like, would you be able to turn them into songs? And so Roy did, and they kind of worked on this, and there was like 7 tracks that made out of it all together. And essentially, he just came to me one day with all of them, because we've all got audio production kits, and we're all engineers, so it's like it was quite easy to be able to pass a song over, and I then like record my own vocals and like write stuff to it as well. But then because we're all like, I'm also a guitarist, and Cal's a guitarist, and Eli was as well, and so it was quite easy to be able to like throw riffs over the top of it and sort of say, this would fit here, this would fit there. And I guess Corona made it a bit more like, we couldn't get into the studio together and write, which is the traditional way of doing it or whatever. But it kind of like, I don't know, it made it a bit more easy, because like when you sort of sat in your own space, you're in your own kind of comfort zone at that point. There's no you're not like waiting on people to do something or waiting on somebody else to come up with an idea before you do it. It was nice, and I feel that's when the best productivity came out of us, because we was just able to like vibe in our own spaces and make something from the emotions that were happening around us at the time. So we've got quite a nice story behind this EP in particular.
Is that something? Well, I was going to say, is that something you can share now? What the story is, or what is it? Is it themed almost?
Yeah. So this is a concept EP, and essentially what it is like each song represents it's more of a perspective based thing. So when I write lyrics, I tend to write a lot about stuff that I've personally felt in my life or experiences that I've done. And I always tend to write things in a third person point of view as well. So instead of it just like being all about me and like this is what I've experienced, and I tend to write it like these are the experiences that I've had, but if you've also had these experiences, just know that like there's somebody else that's also been through it, and just know that you can overcome that. And that was I feel that given the whole pandemic and given the scenario behind everything, I feel like that was something that we all needed some kind of positivity in such a negative time. And that's like we went through releasing the debut single No Silence No Sorrow. That was kind of like the most positive one out of all of them, because literally in the pre-chorus it says you don't have to fight alone, your evil will have no home. And basically that's kind of like it's just a play on it doesn't matter what's happening around you at the moment. It doesn't matter, because that evil will have no home anywhere, because it's not welcome. You just have to make sure that you staying true to that in your own mind. So that's basically what the whole EP is about. It's just that going through those motions and realizing that you're not alone in that, and realizing that you can overcome that darkness, which we all have done.
Definitely. Oh, that's good. I always like a bit of a concept in an album as well. I'm sure many people do.
Yeah, man.
So, yeah, that was really nice. Thank you for all of those answers, Ashley.
No worries, man. Thank you.
Some good stuff there, and really, really some great stuff. So, yeah. Anything you want to plug before?
Cheers, dude.
Before we round off?
Yeah, I think like the coolest thing about what we're doing at the moment is that now that everything's opening back up again, obviously we've got this single dropping, but it's not going to be the only thing that we're dropping. So there's going to be plenty of stuff that's happening straight afterwards. So keep your eyes out. Depression comes in.